Across Nigeria, the rainy season brings relief from scorching heat and agricultural bounties. One such bounty is maize, a food staple for many Nigerians. Roasted, boiled, or cooked, maize is a tasty delicacy. But the taste, texture, and size of maize as we know it may soon become a thing of the past. Since the early 90s, scientists have been in a race to improve the genetic structure of food crops and animals. They say genetically engineering food will improve agricultural yield and increase shelf life. In October 2021, Nigeria's federal government approved a genetically modified, insect-resistant and drought-tolerant maize variety for commercial production. The seedlings became commercially available for farmers in the 2023 farming season. This marked a new chapter in the country's agricultural journey.
There are certain countries, poorer countries, more hungry countries in Africa that have banned, rejected GMOs. One of them is Zambia. Zambia has maintained a strict ban on GMOs since 2002. And the government cites concerns about food safety. That is a poorer government in Africa, poorer than Nigeria. They cite concerns of food safety, environmental impact. I'm listing those conditions so that you will deduce what is wrong with GMOs. Food safety, because they have been found through research to have indications or implications in some non-communicable diseases like cancers, metabolic syndrome, like general memory decay, that is called early loss of memory.
The National Biotechnology Development Agency maintains that this genetically modified seed meets all safety standards and contrary opinions are baseless in science.
Anyone talking against or peddling misinformation, disinformation about GMOs, the safety of GMOs, is just doing it maybe through sentiments, or their own ideology. They may have their own ideology, but not based on science. Whatever they're saying is not based on science.
Nigeria's rich agricultural heritage is now at a crossroads. The country is on the verge of a significant farming season that could make or mar the future of Nigerian food.
So this is it. This is the teller maize.
What are the risks of these human-engineered crops?
This is evidence-based.
Maize used to be one of the cheapest staple food for many Nigerians, with numerous byproducts. Paulina earns a living by roasting and selling maize. Customers come to her for the tasty delicacy. Savoring roasted corn by the roadside is indeed one of life's simpler pleasures. But what some don't know, and what Paulina cannot tell them, is whether the maize they are eating is natural or genetically modified.
I dey buy big one. Like for farm, we will select the one where we need to buy it. But for market, they will bring anyone and you will buy it like this.
It's a speculation anyway. About 80-90% of people cannot differentiate between GMOs and organic plants and even animals. Organic are they look smaller. Sometimes you feel maybe the soil is not good for them or they don't have enough fertilizer. But that is how they are. And they are very, very healthy. But the GMOs, the grains are very big. They produce you have a massive harvest at the end of the season. But this one you may not have as plenty as the other one. But this is more healthy than the other one. Common sense tells me that if Germany, where this thing emanated from, have rejected it, if Russia has followed suit, because Russia is one of the highest world exporter of wheat, but they are no more doing GMOs. They are doing organic. So they know the health hazard of it. I think the target might be to reduce population of some kind of people. especially Africa? Because Africa, whatever comes in, we take it hook, line, and sinker. And I don't think that's the best way to go.
Teller maize is one of the genetically modified crops approved by the Nigeria's federal government on the 11th of January 2024 for open cultivation, with the hope that the challenge of drought and pest infestation on maize will be a thing of the past, thereby improving food security. The Institute for Agricultural Research, Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, is one of the institutions that promotes teller maize. However, many farmers are yet to switch to these improved seedlings. Farmers have had a bitter tale producing organic maize. The introduction of teller maize could be a game changer to end their long suffering. Salisu is one of such farmers. He welcomes GMO seeds because of the high cost of agricultural input and loss of grains to insect infestation.
As I'm doing it now, I don't like the way I'm doing it. I also need something that will make the farm easier for me. If I have that GMO now, I will use it, because like this one now, it will produce 3 to 4 bags for me. But that one that you are saying, maybe it will produce 5 to 6 bags. I need it. I will use it because nobody wants to suffer. And if I plant it and pour chemical just once, that means I will welcome it, and I will also introduce it to my people.
GMO plants' DNA have been altered to enhance certain traits, such as resistance to pests, increased yield, or improved nutritional content. The National Biotechnology Development Agency is mass-producing teller maize at its demonstration farm.
The demonstration plot was actually established by the teller maize projects group, just for people to come and see. Seeing is believing, because there's a lot of controversial, like misinformation, disinformation, rumor mongering going on about teller, which are not really true. They are falsely, based on all those things. A lot is going on the social media, but this is it for people to come and see and believe, and not to say wherever you plant a GMO that nothing survives around it. When you come here, it's a different ball game.
While these modifications are considered solution to agricultural challenges, growing concerns suggest that teller maize may have unintended and dangerous consequences for human health. The Center for Food Safety and Agricultural Research has reservation about the commercial production of GMO crops in Nigeria.
The program was localized in several African countries, inclusive of Nigeria. It's under a project called Water Efficient Maize for Africa, WEMA. It's under that project which it was taken to different African countries. And of course, part of the buzzwords, narratives are that it's drought tolerant and pest resistant. So the popular army fallworms and other things that affect maize productions in Africa, this genetically modified variants will mitigate those things. Fantastic marketing stunts. Question: give us the risk assessment. From the Center for Food Safety, we have been asking for the risk assessment for this teller maize program in Nigeria. Until date, we even asked under the Freedom of Information Act. We haven't still gotten it. Other organizations have asked for it that we are aware of. They haven't gotten it. In fact, at a point, CEFSA was banned on Twitter for asking pertinent questions, the NBMA. And till this moment, as we speak, we have not gotten the risk assessment document. Is it wrong for us to ask for risk assessment for something that everybody needs to consume? How do we, because from what we do is food safety, we want to guarantee that this thing is safe. We are aware that there are international concerns. We're not the only ones speaking. In fact, the Mexican president, he placed a ban on both GMO crops and glyphosate, and said it was in the interest of the health of their country and the preservation of their native varieties. That was why this was done. The Mexican president said this. The Tanzanian agricultural minister also said the same thing. Banned it. In fact, they banned the control field trials because of the potential damages. Mexico tried GMO. Mexico placed a moratorium on genetically modified foods as far back as 1998, but it wasn't followed. They lifted the moratorium they lifted the ban on GMOs, I think about 2001, 2002, and then it's been back and forth. And then they tried it for about 12, 13 years before. In fact, when they were going to ban it, they said that approving it was a crime against the people of Mexico. Approving it in the first place. In their Ministry of Defense, they said it's a crime against the people of Mexico to have even allowed it in the first place, because they found out that they were losing their natural varieties of maize, the natural varieties that they had for thousands of years. Before this generation, they found out that they started looking for those varieties because they were in a trade agreement with Canada and the North American trade NAFTA agreement, North American trade and treaty between Northern American countries. So they had to be intertrade, and 98% of the maize in America is GMO. And they began importing what they already had in excess because of the trade treaty. And then they backed out of the treaty and said, no, it is in the interest of their national sovereignty that they protect their food systems, they protect the health of their people, and they backed out of that. So what did Mexico see? What did Mexico find out? When we begin to see these things in researches, in studies, we begin to localize it here and say, okay, give us the risk assessment documents. Let us study it till date. I have asked Dr. Rose Gidadu, personally, of the National Biotechnology Research Agency. I've asked her personally. I've asked her on a Twitter chat room. I've asked her also on chat, personal chat with her, because we speak to issues. One thing that unifies us all is that we are Nigerians. And if we cannot protect ourselves, who will protect us? I have asked the NBMA also directly for the same research papers. I have asked several others. I've even written to the IAR to make the same papers available. No one is responding.
For the average Nigerian consumer, the concept of GMOs is often shrouded in mystery. Without clear labeling or sufficient public enlightenment, people may be consuming genetically modified foods without realizing it or understanding the potential risks.
It's very difficult for the common man to identify them, especially in the context of the Nigerian market system. Our market system is different from the market systems in Europe and North America and in Asia. The common man is now at the mercy of government regulators, who are the gatekeepers. What they require, what they need to do is all over the world, and the purpose, the foundational purpose of government is to protect the masses, the common person. So the regulator is there, NAFDAC is there, who ordinarily should have the purview to regulate GMOs. But because of procured science and procured regulation, the promoters of GMOs came sponsored bills at our government levels to shift regulation of GMOs from NAFDAC to a body that they created and implanted their proteges there. So now that very important gatekeeping aspect of government is missing. And we are using the media to call on the president and to call on the National Assembly to remember that they have a social compact with the masses, with the Nigerian people, the poor farmers, the poor consumers, the children of Nigeria, that should be given a chance to have a future tomorrow. At least they should grow to maturity. But with these poisons, I doubt if they can grow. So it's difficult, like I alluded to earlier, that if you go to buy akara, how will you know that it's produced with genetically modified beans? So in our market systems, the common man will not. And you know, it is promoted and marketed with packaging, with aesthetics, that, oh, this is, and that's what they're deceiving farmers now, that, oh, this is genetically modified. They give you bumper harvest, but they're not telling the farmers that epicide genes are implanted in the seeds. When you harvest the tonnage that is promised, you cannot replant them again, because contractually, the patent holders forbid that. Because if you are to replant the seeds, their business will die and their profit mongering will be of no use. Secondly, if you plant them generation 1, generation 2, Generation 3, if you manage to plant them, the yield drastically drops, as the technology is inserted to discourage you from reuse of the seeds. So they came with that narrative, and usually, this is a narrative war. The manufacturer narratives are, there is a difference between seed and grains. But my grandmother used to harvest and replant, and we used to eat. But now they are saying that, no, you are having problem. We are having problem with our yield, not because of the quality of our seeds only. It's because of the quality of the soil. The soil is depleting because with the introduction of genetically modified organisms, the ubiquitous use of pesticides, herbicides, has grown astronomically. But you see, there is something that's called class or mass suicide. They are leading this country into mass suicide because of avarice. They are procured. My colleague will tell you, over the few years that we began to study this, the quantum of financing that one individual or a group of eugenists, the population proponents, have pumped into Africa and Nigeria over a short period of time is mind-boggling. In trillions. Who is the beneficiary? Who is collecting this money? Those people in government that ought to know better, but I want to excuse them. Even some of my colleagues, we should know better than the people in government, because we are the researchers, we are the professors. But you know what? First of all, they come deceive our governments that higher education research, you don't need it. What you need is primary education. And education at the university is not funded. Our colleagues, my colleagues are hungry, they are poor. That's why you've been having incessant ASU federal government altercations. And due to this, the side consequence is that they become vulnerable to procurement. And there is a way that these people promoting this, not just a way, there is evidence. They procure scientists. I have tons of court cases. We have them in our research center. That they have procured scientists, they procured scientific research, and they also procured the outcomes. They detect the outcomes. So even our colleagues who are procured, who should be knowledgeable and therefore patriotic and nationalistic to our country, what are our politicians whose aim is to recover their investment that they spend to get into politics?
This is natural as the conventional counterparts.
While responding to some of the questions raised by the Center for Food Safety and Agricultural Research, the Director, Agricultural Biotechnology Department, says their findings are not based on science.
Yeah, what we tell them is that they are highly scrutinized. The safest foods in the history of mankind. They have history of safe use in other countries that they've been used, and standards are being developed, on the use of these foods and development, and all technology developers, they make sure they work within those laid down standards, international standards. And these standards are being developed by WHO, OECD, FAO, and all. And these are internationally recognized regulatory bodies, and everyone knows them. And then within countries, every country, at least before a country begins to commercialize a genetically modified organism, that country must have a safety valve in place, a regulatory agency like the one we have, the National Biosafety Management Agency. You must, first of all, especially a country that is signatory, to the Cartagena Protocol. We have the Cartagena Protocol on biological diversity. So that Cartagena Protocol, of course, provides, ensures that every country that is party to it must develop its own regulatory framework. And that's what Nigeria did, because Nigeria signed the Cartagena Protocol in 2001 and got it ratified 2003 during President Obasanjo's time. And that's why we had to now develop biosafety bill, took it to National Assembly. It was passed and signed in 2015 by President Jonathan. And after the signing of that act, then came Biosafety Management Agency to just, ensure, to oversee the movement, the use, and then the development of these genetically modified organisms by technology developers, So everyone who wants to either develop it or import it must apply to National Biosafety Management Agency and all this. So this is to put a safety valve in place. So we already have the framework, that framework in place, and we have this agency, National Biotechnology Research and Development Agency, which is a promoter. We also carry out research and development. Another agric research institutes also do same. And so we have, Nigeria has all it takes. So, and in terms of safety, we're already safeguarded.
As the debate over GMO and organic crops continues in scientific circles, there is a growing call from health practitioners for Nigerians to go back to organic crops to avoid non-communicable diseases. A dietitian, Dr. Cosmos Ugu, calls for independent and comprehensive testing to ensure the safety of these crops before they are allowed into the market.
Yes, looking at it, you know that in the Book of Faith, they say that lack of knowledge, my people perish. So this thing is anybody that sees this thing will rush it. And any marketer will try as much as possible to do a good packaging before he comes to the market so that he'll market it. But the adverse effect is what we are talking. Not that the product is very fine, of which anybody that sees it will be enticed to go and rush it, not knowing that you may be going into debt. That's the summary of what I would say about this thing. Because if you take this thing now and they contain a lot of toxins and toxic substances that will kill you in less than 1 year, then the essence of the aim of this is defeated. Your feeding have no positive effects. That's what it entails. So for me, it's very good as you see it, but it's not the best. Or for this, the effect of a GMO and rest of them, the implication of genes. Because by our level of expertise in genes and rest of them, you know that a lot of things are happening. That's why if you go upstairs now, you see a lot of kidney failures, heart failure, stroke here and there, cancer of the breast, cancer of the uterus. In short, 1,001 of them. Where is it coming from? It's from what we are eating, because we have changed the trend. If you go into the villages, you see all those old women living 120, 150. They are still strong, moving. But this new generation people now, before you know, the life expectancy of Nigeria is within the range of highest plus or minus 55, 60. Why? It's because of lifestyle and what we eat. And all this is coming from all this kind of modified foods that is proliferated everywhere. And bakers of bread are not baking for their own interest, they are baking for their own magnanimity. So all these people producing this is looking for their money. So that's why I will say that they have a lot of disease condition is involved. If you go into the hospitals, you see that it looks like markets. There are no busy hospitals. Go general hospital, primary health care, tertiary hospitals. If you sight the place, there are no hospital you will go that will not look like a marketplace. Why? It's because of what you are eating. Everything is already modernized and either using GMO or introducing one chemical to sort out one thing or the other.
As Nigerians steps into the era of genetically modified agriculture, the nation faces a critical choice. The promise of tiller maize is undeniable, but so too are the concerns that accompany them. In this complex landscape, consumers, farmers, and policymakers must navigate the facts, fears, and the future of food in Nigeria.